Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. My name is Lydia and I am here with my dad, Chris.
Hi.
And my two sisters, my older sister, Elise, and my younger sister, Gracie.
Ben.
I had a question for my dad the other day. I wanted to know how he changed oil in a car. Let's get started together. Okay, before we start, I have another question. What do we need in order to do this?
It's a good question. Let me show you what I use to change oil in our cars. The first thing that I get, or make sure we have, is a pair of car ramps to raise the front part of the car up onto so we can crawl underneath and access the things we need to change the oil. We're going to need an oil filter wrench. That's really helpful. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't, but it's really helpful if they're really tight. Sometimes you can just use your hand to unscrew the oil filter. We're going to need a standard socket set to loosen the bolt or the nut to drain the old oil out of the car. We're going to need brand new oil. In this case, I have 0W20 oil and a new oil filter, both of which I got from Walmart. And then I have the oil pan that we're going to drain the old oil from the car into so it doesn't spill all over the floor. And of course, being an eye doctor, I have to make sure we protect our eyes, so eye protection is always important. And then the last thing that I like to have is my favorite snack so that I can eat while I work.
Okay, so Dad, I have another question. How do we know what oil and filter to get for your car?
That's another great question, Lydia. There's really two things we need to get. One is new oil. In this case, I use the 0W20 type of oil. I use the full synthetic. And the reason I know that is I've looked in my owner's manual from my car. I know it's a 2018 GMC Terrain, and the type of oil is in this owner's manual, so you could look it up in there. That's option number one. Option number two is to look on the oil cap inside the engine of the car, and we'll show you that next. And it also will oftentimes label the type of oil that's required. The second thing we need to do is figure out what type of oil filter to get. I commonly use the Fram products, and we can go to their online search engine to look up basically your vehicle, the year, the engine, to find the number or the size for the oil filter needed for your vehicle as well. And we will also show you that. So like I said, there are two main ways of figuring out what type of oil you need to get for your car. One way is to look in the owner's manual and look in the table of contents, look up types of engine oil, and that will tell you. Probably the simpler way, if this is available on your particular vehicle, is to look at the oil cap, and you'll notice that at the top of mine, you'll notice it says 0W20. And so that is another quick way to figure out what type of oil you need. So in order to pick out the correct oil filter that you may need for your car, you'll have to look it up. There are several ways to do this. One of my favorites is the Fram parts search, which is easy and free online on their website. So once you get to the website, you go up to the top and click on parts search in the upper right-hand corner, and then you type in your information. So in this case, I want a car or a truck, any type on the first box, and then the year, I have a 2018. It's a GMC. It's a Terrain, and the engine type is the first one, the L4 1.5 liter 91 CID. And I'm going to click search, and then you'll notice there's several different options here as far as filters to get. Here's a synthetic endurance, etc., but what you want to pay attention to is that orange number right there, the FE12060. You'll notice that no matter which one I choose, the 12060 is the same, and so that is the number that we're looking for, 12060. So when I went to Walmart, I found the 12060 that you can see on the bottom left-hand corner of the box that I got for this oil filter. So therefore I knew I had the right one, and that's how you find the correct one. Okay, one of the tricks my dad taught me when I was growing up was to, once you figure out the correct spacing between the front tires, which you can measure with a tape measure, or trial and error it until you get the ramps where you need them to be perfectly. But once you know where they need to be, then what you should do is take a permanent marker and mark the outside position of each ramp so that you don't have to measure it out or think about it down the road. You already have it where they perfectly need to be. So I made in this front outside corner, I made 2 marks here so I know where the ramp goes. And then the back one down here is also going to be for the back outside corner. So what that would look like is this one over here. You'll see on the outside corner here, those marks are on the ground like here. So we're just going to set that corner here. And then if we look down here, we set the outside edge right next to that. So we know it's in perfect position and we can just cut to the chase and not have to worry about remeasuring each time we put the ramps up.
Okay, so we have the vehicle up on the car ramps and we are ready to start.
Okay, before we start, I wanted to take a time out and discuss 3 main safety features that I think are important to talk about. First and foremost, if you don't feel comfortable doing this in any capacity, I would highly recommend you consult a professional mechanic to change this oil for you. There's no shame in that by any means, so I would highly recommend that again if you don't feel comfortable doing so. Second, I cannot underestimate the importance of eye protection when you're under a car like this. My day job is an eye doctor, and I've had to remove metal out of people's eyes more than once, and in almost all cases the metal would have not gotten into the eyes had a person not been wearing or had been wearing safety glasses or goggles, which would be even better to kind of seal around the eyes. So eye protection, extremely important. And third, and even still very important, is that in order to change oil in the car, you have to be absolutely sure that the oil has cooled off and that the engine has cooled off. That oil gets over 200 degrees, which will burn you upon contact almost immediately. So again, have to be very confident that the car engine itself is cooled off and the engine oil has cooled off. So you may need to let the car set for a long time until we reach that safety point with the oil temperature. So again, refresh summary here. If you're not comfortable, consult a professional, wear eye protection, and be absolutely sure that the car has cooled off appropriately, specifically the engine oil, before you attempt these repairs. Okay, so now that we have the car up on the ramps, we have positioned the oil pan underneath where we're going to drain the oil. If you look up here, there is a bolt that we're going to unloosen, and the oil is going to come out of this into the pan. It's very important that you have the pan underneath so you don't leak oil all over the floor. It would be a huge mess. So what you need, in this case, I know that that bolt is a 16 millimeter. It's a metric. So I'm going to put that on my wrench like so. I'm going to make sure I'm loosening, and I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to loosen this up. All right. Nope, got it. All right, so now that I got it loose, I'm gonna finger loosen this. You'll see the oil start to drip. That's normal. And I'm gonna keep loosening this up by my hand. And it's gonna be a little oily mess there. Sometimes it's nice to get some gloves. But you can kind of go like this. Like so. And then we're just gonna let it drip. So I have a rag, and I have grabbed the bolt that I took out, and we're gonna let the oil drain. I'm just letting it go straight in the middle of the pan, like so. And you can see how black that oil is, meaning it's old. It's picked up some debris along the way and some grime. And so we're gonna let the oil completely drain out. I'm just adjusting the oil pan every so often here. So we're gonna do that. It'll take a few minutes for that to completely drain out, and then the next step will be to change the oil filter, which I'll show you next. So for now, we're gonna push pause. Okay, so the oil has been draining out for several minutes now, and you can see this little dribble coming out of where we took the bolt out. So I've cleaned off the bolt with a spare clean rag, and I'm gonna go ahead and insert the bolt back in place and start tightening it up like that. That should stop most of the oil. I gotta get it much tighter though. So we're gonna go like this, like that. We're gonna clean it off with my rag. And I got it finger tight there to start. I'm gonna get all the extra oil so I know it's not leaking, like so. And then I'm gonna take my ratchet and I'm gonna now tighten it up. This time I'm gonna tighten it. You don't wanna over tighten it, you just want it snug, like that. And then I'm gonna take the rag one more time, make sure I got all excess oil out of there and unclean. So now that is back and it's not dripping, which is good. So now we're gonna move over towards the oil filter, which is up over here. This should only be about hand tight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to loosen that with my hand. There it goes. And there is oil in here that when you loosen it enough, it will bubble over the top. So you're gonna wanna make sure you have your oil pan directly underneath of it. And a trick that I've used before is to use basically one of these funnels to hold underneath. So any oil that comes out over top will then drain into here and into the pan. It'll make less of a mess. So I've already got it loose. I'm gonna keep loosening, and in a minute here you're gonna see, there you go, there's some oil coming out. So I'm gonna let it drain. I'm just gonna rest here. But you'll notice that the funnel's catching all that extra oil and it's dripping into the pan there to create less of a mess. That's the idea. There'll still be a little mess when we get done, but so we're just letting that drip. There we go. And then what I'm gonna do is keep kind of spinning. There it goes. And it's just lefty-loosey, righty-tighty like everything else. There it goes, like so. And then I'm gonna take this out like this and do that. I'm gonna let all that oil kind of come out and then drain into the pan like so. All right. So it's still going to drip a little bit. And then on my new filter, I'm going to take a little bit of the old oil. This is kind of an old trick that my dad taught me, and you're going to put a little bit of oil around the seal, just a little bit of the old stuff. That helps that seal, the rubber seal, seat a little better back in position. So I've done that. That's easy to do. Just kind of dip your finger in there, rub it around. And then I'm just going to let the rest of this oil kind of drain out like so. And when I feel like most of it's gone, then I'm going to turn on the new filter there. So it takes a couple minutes here just to get that extra out of the way. And we'll do some cleaning up right after that. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to take this, set this here like that. I'm going to take the new and I'm going to hold it up like that. And I'm just going to spin it in place like so. You don't want it to be super tight, but you don't want it loose. You want it kind of hand tight where it's just snug. There it is. And that's it. That's all you need. So now I'm going to make sure I have all extra oil picked up. I'm going to make sure all the oil that it's going to drip off the old funnel there and the old oil filter is going to be inside the oiled pan so I don't mess anything up there, get it on the floor. I'm going to clean off any of these dribbles like this. And then now that that is all done, once I get that all cleaned up, it is time to put in the new oil up in the engine itself. Okay, so now we're ready to put the oil in. And so up here in the engine block, you're gonna notice where we talked about earlier, where the cap for the oil fill was, where we figured out what type of oil to get for the car. We're gonna remove that cap. We're gonna turn it to the left or counterclockwise. And then this just gets removed. I'm gonna set this over to the side so it won't fall out. I'm gonna get a funnel to get ready to dump the oil in, which will help me not spill it. And then I'll go get the oil and we'll start filling it up right here. Okay, so now I've put in the appropriate amount of oil. So I'm gonna take out the funnel and make sure it stays clean. I'm gonna take the cap from before and I'm gonna replace it down here like so. I'm gonna tighten it down with about a quarter turn. So now the next step, since we have the oil in, is I'm gonna start the car, I'm gonna back it off the ramps, and I'm gonna let it run for a minute or two to get the new oil kind of moving around the engine. And then I'm gonna check the engine oil level to make sure that it's in a safe and correct level to use the car in. Okay, so we've got the car off the ramps. I've let it run for 2 minutes, and then I've brought it back into the garage on a level surface, and I've let it sit for another 2 minutes to let the oil kind of settle down in the pan where it's supposed to. And now we're gonna check the level of oil to make sure I don't need to add more or that I've added too much. So the way you do that, the dipstick here is this yellow circle. You're gonna grab it and you're gonna pull it up. And you're going to clean it off first, like so, with a rag, like this. And then down here at the end, do you have a good view of that? There are 2 little holes at the end. There's one here and one over here to the right and then to the left on the camera. And so the oil level needs to be between those 2 dots or those 2 holes and no higher than that. That's how you know if you have enough oil. If it's lower than the bottom one, you need to add. If it's too high, then you put too much in. So you clean it off first like this, and then you put it back in all the way down like so, and then you pull it out, and then you look at the oil level, and this is perfect. It's right at that top mark, which means there's enough oil right within the limits of where we need it to be. So I'm going to put it back in. And now our oil has been completely changed and it's ready to go. I'm just going to close the hood and reset the mileage timer or monitor on the car so that I know when to change oil again down the road. Okay, so to finish up the last little things about cleaning up, I thought it'd be important for us to talk about what to do with the old used oil. What I do is I take it out of the oil pan and I'm going to dump it into the now empty canister where we got the new oil from, and then I'm going to put the cap back on that, and then I'm going to take the old oil filter once I make sure all the oil is drained out of it, and then I'm going to take both the oil filter and the old oil back to where I bought it from at Walmart, and they will recycle it responsibly so that it doesn't get out into the environment and things like that. Okay, so that wraps up how to change the oil in a car. Lydia, what did you learn today?
I learned that there are different kinds of oils and filters, and each one is different to every car.
Awesome. It's worth spending time to know that today, right?
Yep.
Okay, what's next? What else?
Our Bible verse, Elise.
The Bible verse for today comes from Acts 1. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good time. Lots of love.
Remember, she's weird.
Remember, everyone, if you have any questions, comments, or deep thoughts, put them in the comment section below. And remember to hit subscribe.